Mr. President, India's foreign minister has spoken much about terrorism. The UN should actually define terrorism. And in that definition, we should include state terrorism. The state terrorism which the Indian National Security Advisor has boasted is being sponsored by India's spy agencies in my country, in what he called a double squeeze strategy. Pakistan has in its custody an Indian spy, an intelligence officer, Kulbhushan Yadav, who confessed to India's support to terrorist activities in my country. In fact, India has considerable experience in the state sponsorship of terrorism in our region. It has sponsored and perpetrated terrorism and aggression against all its neighbors, creating terrorist groups, destabilizing and blockading neighbors to do its strategic bidding, and sponsoring subversion, sabotage, and terrorism in various parts of Pakistan. All this establishes that India is the mother of terrorism in South Asia. Mr. President, India's proclivity to violence is also no secret. In the 70 years since its independence, India has been engaged in at least over a dozen instances of the use of force and continues to face 17 insurgencies in its own land. It has fought a war with or in each of its neighbors. Mr. President, the Indian Foreign Minister sought to denigrate my country's founding father, Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah. All I can say about India's current political luminaries is that they belong to a political organization that has the blood of thousands of Muslims of Gujarat on their hands. Today, this so-called democracy is the world's largest hypocrisy. This, Mr. President, is the face of India's democracy. India is ruled by a government in which a racist and fascist ideology is firmly embedded. The leadership of this government emanates from the RSS, the same extremist group which is accused of assassinating Mahatma Gandhi. It is a government which has appointed a fanatic as the chief minister of India's largest state, whose rallying cry to his mobs was, "If one Hindu is killed, we will kill 100 Muslims." It is a government which has allowed the lynching of Muslims. And all this is amply documented by international human rights organizations. Indeed, as one of India's most famous contemporary authors recently said, and I quote, "These horrific murders are only a symptom. Life is hell for the living too. Whole populations of Dalits, Adivas, Muslims, and Christians are being forced to live in terror, unsure of when and from where the next assault would come," unquote. And then again, quote, "Much of what is in the air in India now is pure terror, in Kashmir, in other places," unquote. Mr. President, the Indian Foreign Minister spoke about human rights. So let me ask, who is using pellet guns that are blinding unarmed protesters, including children, infants in occupied Kashmir? Who is violating the fundamental rights, not only of the brave people of Kashmir, but hundreds of millions of Indians? And who is using rape as an instrument of terror, as an instrument of state policy to crush a popular and indigenous movement in the occupied state of Jammu and Kashmir? In conclusion, Mr. President, let me say, Pakistan remains open to resuming a comprehensive dialogue with India to address all outstanding issues, especially Jammu and Kashmir, and to discuss measures to maintain peace and security. But this dialogue must be accompanied by an end to India's campaign of subversion and state-sponsored terrorism in Pakistan. I thank you.